Metal music is more than a genre, it's a lifestyle for its millions of fans, and those same people will be excited to hear about a new groundbreaking docuseries, Into the Void. Focuses on the enduring cultural phenomenon that is heavy metal while also telling some incredible human stories from behind the bands themselves. And series creator Jason Eisner and Evan Husney join me now. Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Hey, good morning. Thanks so much for having us.
Well, no, I'm very excited to talk about this. I'm a huge metal fan. My formative years as a young musician as well was centered around metal music, Megadeth, Pantera as well, which we'll come on to. But what is it about metal music that made you guys want to tell these stories?
Well, first off, Jason and I grew up as huge, metal fans. It was very formative, to us, just like it was to you. I mean, I grew up, deep in the suburbs of Minnesota and felt pretty often alienated by, my peers and couldn't relate to a lot of people. And I think metal really gave me that sense of individuality and let me break free from a lot of that stuff. And then, that aside, I think that the metal genre is fascinating to look at now in hindsight. Obviously, it's still going today, but looking at the stories of the past, because, this was a very often misunderstood, often misrepresented, a genre of music, and even weaponized in some cases, as you're seeing here in the Judas Priest story. So I think for us, it was an opportunity to really approach these stories with a lot of respect, but to be able to tell them in the most humanistic way possible. Because most times when you see metal chronicled in other forms of media, you're really seeing it as sort of a sensational sex, drugs, and rock and roll type expose. And we really wanted to strip all that away and try to make the most relatable human story that we could tell. Also in an effort to get people who aren't fans, to be riveted by this material as well. So yeah, lengthy answer to your question, but yeah, that's it.
No, it's perfect. I mean, you guys do touch on some iconic and tragic figures like Dimebag Darrell of Pantera and Wendy O of the Plasmatics. Why were these stories so important to tell? What insight is offered from what is already out there?
Yeah, I think in particular, we really wanted to focus on stories like the Dimebag Darrell one, as you said, and even Randy Rhoads, his tragic passing. Those are stories that have been chronicled in other places, or even to us as fans, they sort of live on as almost heavy metal lore in sort of many ways. But I feel like with what we wanted to do was we wanted to kind of take these stories that are often more sensationalized, and sort of strip them down and bring them down to the ground and only interview the people that directly were involved in the stories or were there and experienced it, firsthand, sort of in an attempt to reframe them, to kind of get them away from that same sort of portrayal that they've had for decades. And I got to tell you, being in the room, speaking to a lot of these artists firsthand and really hearing the things that they went through, it completely puts a totally different context, and it colorizes these as real firsthand experiences that these people had, and it gives you a complete richer and deeper connection to them as people. And I think that's what we're really trying to show here with the series.
Yeah, what is it you think about metal music in particular, the musicians and the culture, the dress code, everything that stems from it? Why do you think it's often mocked or misunderstood from those who don't like the music or follow the bands?
Well, I think, one thing in particular is I think especially in the 80s and the early 90s, it was kind of low-hanging fruit for a lot of people, because here is a genre that, has a very intense aesthetic, an intense sound, and that can be very threatening to a lot of people in terms of the visual iconography of a lot of the stuff that goes into heavy metal. And I think it was low-hanging fruit, for a lot of very conservative Christian groups at the time to really kind of take this, commodify this, weaponize this, and sort of use it as a way to further their own message. And I think that really put a huge major target on the head of metal for a long time. I mean, going into the early 90s, you had the PMRC, you had groups that were trying to censor this sort of form of expression and really kind of using it as like the scapegoat of, here's why our children are, delinquent. Here's why, and of course, even into Columbine in the late 90s, it was blamed as in terms of, the, horrific tragedy that was as well. So for years, it's existed as a scapegoat. And this is why I think, we wanted to bring more attention to that because I think it's more relevant now as we're talking about things about freedom of expression and free speech and stuff like that. So I think it's a good time to be looking back to it.
Right, I'm very excited about this. Very, very quickly, because we're running out of time. If you get another season, are there any other stories you guys would love to tell that you didn't get to tell in this season?
There are plenty of other stories we would love to tell. We've had like a pretty big list to begin with of episodes we wanted to do. But this was our first step into the world of heavy metal, and so we had to gain some street cred and hopefully gain some respect and show, when this show comes out and people see, the humanistic side and how truthful, and we wanted to show where these artists, where they come from and what they bring from their personal experiences and how anyone could relate to them. I'm hoping that audiences who are fans and who are not fans of heavy metal will relate to these artists, and then hopefully we'll get to make more, and hopefully get to be able to get access to some of the other stories that we wanted to tell. Because we would love nothing more than to continue making more seasons of Into the Void.
Well, Jason, Evan, I'm throwing the horns up and I salute you guys. Thank you so much for doing this. I'm really excited to see it. Have a great day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The 8-part docuseries Into the Void premieres on Hulu on September 22nd and will be available in its entirety for your binging pleasure. And for more information, just visit hulu.com.